Hi, Assalamualaikum and good evening everyone. So today I would like to explain about our assignment, which is issue relating industrial relations in Malaysia, and also the company that we have chosen is Mediceram Syndrome Berhad. Okay, next let's go. Meet our members. The first member is SHIONG, and then we have NURUL NAJWA, and also myself, Muhammad AMIRUDDin, and NURAMIERA SHAFIQA, and also NURUL IZZATI FARHANA. Let's go next. I would like to explain and introduce our company, which is Mediceram Syndrome Berhad. Company name Mediceram Syndrome Berhad with number registrations 20000102165, and the date of incorporation August 23rd of 2000, establishing is a long-standing Malaysian manufacturer. The main locations that they have their headquarters in Nilai, Negeri Sembilan, Malaysia, and also the workforce, which is the employees between 201 to 500 employees. And then industry niche, manufacturing of technical ceramic within the broader clay building materials and refractories manufacturing sector. And the co-product of this company is ceramic hand formers or ceramic molds. And the functions of this company and also the ceramic is forms are specialized precision engineered molds essential for dipping process used in the production of all types of rubber gloves, including examinations, surgical, industrials, and also household gloves. And the market positions, Mediceram operates a crucial business to business, which is B2B, supplier to major global leaders in the rubber glove manufacturing industry. And then the corporate visions of their company is to be a world-class solution finder for ceramic formers in the rubber glove industry. And their corporate values, the first one is respect, empowerment, consistent accountability, integrity, and also excellences. Now I would like to give to our second members about the issues.
Hello everyone, my name is NURUL NAJWA. My matric number is 299866. Now I will move on to the issue that happened in Mediceram. The first one is wage exploitation and financial hardship. Migrant workers at Mediceram supplier for Ansel experienced unpaid or delayed wages and overtime for several months, cause severe financial stress for workers supporting families or repaying recruitment debt, indicate failure to meet basic wage obligation and ethical employment standard. Second, high recruitment fees and debt bondage rates. Workers were required to pay high recruitment fees before starting work at Mediceram. This debt trapped them in exploitative conditions as they feel compelled to continue working despite mistreatment in order to repay what they own. The practice highlights a failure in ethical recruitment and a lack of proper oversight by Ansel over its subcontractor. Alright, we move to point number 3 is restriction of movement, passport seizure, and visa issue. Some migrant workers reported that Mediceram retained their passport, which limited their freedom to move, change employers, or return to their home country. The confiscation of passport is widely recognized as an indicator of forced labor, as it creates dependency on the employer and restricts worker autonomy. In addition, expired or unrenewed work visa place worker in a legally insecure position, causing fear of immigration penalty despite workers having no control over the renewal process. The next one is retaliation and unfair dismissal. Workers who raise concern about delayed wages or attempt to access their right were reportedly dismissed without due process and subsequently deported. There was no evidence of a proper internal investigation or an opportunity for workers to present their case before disciplinary action was taken. This action contributed to a climate of fear, discouraging workers from speaking out or reporting further abuse. Okay, point number 5 is poor and overcrowded living condition. Accommodation provided by Mediceram for migrant workers was reported to be overcrowded, unhygiene, and unsafe. This poor living condition had a negative impact on worker physical health, personal safety, and mental well-being. The situation reflects a failure by the employer to uphold its responsibility for the welfare and dignity of migrant workers. The last one is weak oversight and supplier code failure. Despite NCL having a supplier code of conduct, ineffective monitoring allow repeat labor violation to continue. Ongoing problems such as delay wages, debt bondage, and unfair dismissal suggest systematic weaknesses in supply chain governance. This case highlights the importance of regular audits, strict enforcement of standards, and prompt corrective action to protect workers' rights.
My name is Ong Jing Xiong and my notice number is 299625. I will continue to proceed with the presentation 3.0, Relevance Law and the Preventions for Principle of Industrial Court. First, under the principle of just cause and accuse, any dismissal must be based on valid reasons. In this case, the worker was terminated for protesting unpaid wages. This is not misconduct, but a legitimate complaint. Mediceram should have resolved the wage issue instead of dismissing the worker. Second, principle substantive fairness. Look at whether the employer decision is fair based on fact. Mediceram ignored the real problems such as delayed wages, passport confiscations, and poor working conditions. A fair employer should investigate this issue before blaming workers. Third, principle procedural fairness of we call natural justice require proper procedure before dismissal. Mediceram does not issue show cause letter, conduct a domestic inquiry, or allow worker to respond. This clearly shows that they are violates natural justice. 4. Under the principle burden of proof, the employer must justify the dismissal. Because Mediceram did not investigate or collect evidence, they failed to prove that the dismissal was justified. 5. The principle of proportionalities states that punishments must match the misconduct. Even if the protest were considered misconduct, mass termination and deportation were excessive. Progressive discipline should have been used in this of dismissal. Finally, the right to be heard require worker to be given a chance to explain. Mediceram did not allow workers to defend themselves, which is a serious breach of natural justice. Let's continue with the Employment Act 1955. Under Section 14, employer must conduct a proper inquiry before disciplinary actions. Mediceram failed to do so, making the punishment unlawful. Under Section 19, Subsection 1, wages must be paid by the 7 days of the following months. Delay or unpaid wages indicate a breach and were the main cause of the worker protest. Under Section 24, only lawful deductions are allowed. Any unexplained deduction of fees will further violate the Act and worsen employer misconduct. The employer, Mediceram has violated Occupational Safety and Health Act 1994. Under Section 15, employer must provide a safe and healthy workplace if workers face unsafe or unhygienic conditions. Mediceram has failed in its legal duties.
First, I will explain the duty to pay remuneration. Under common law, employers are required to pay wages and overtime according to what has been agreed in the employment contract. In the Mediceram case, migrant workers alleged that their wages and overtime payment they either not paid on time or not paid correctly. Some workers also reported that deductions were made without proper explanation. This failure to provide fair and transparent remuneration caused serious dissatisfaction among workers and become one of the main reasons for collective complaint and protests. Next is the duty of care. Employers have a responsibility to take reasonable care of their employees' safety, health, and overall welfare, including both the workplace and employer provide recommendation. Mediceram has accused of failing to meet this duty, as workers are reported housing in overcrowded and poor quality living conditions. In addition, workers experience emotional stress, fear of deportation, and unsafe working environment. This condition clearly indicate a breach of the employer's duty of care, particularly toward vulnerable migrant workers. The third duty is the duty to treat employees with respect and trust. Under common law, employer must act fairly, reasonably, and in good faith. However, in the Mediceram case, workers who received concerns about unpaid wages, visa issues, and working conditions were allegedly dismissed. Many of them were later detained and deported. This suggests that the company responded with retaliation instead of solving dispute through fair and lawful procedure. Such actions severely damage trust between the employer and employees. Finally, the duty to comply with statutory obligation. Employer must comply with labor law, immigration regulation, and worker welfare standard. Mediceram has alleged to have failed in renewing work permit properly, causing some workers to become undercommended. The company also faced accusation of breaching housing and employment standard. This lack of compliance increased workers' vulnerability and worsens industrial relation conflict within the company.
Assalamualaikum, my name is NURAMIERA SHAFIQA binti Azmir. My metric number is 300021. I will continue the presentation on relevant laws and prevention. For this section, we will discuss the relevant law under the Code of Conduct for Industrial Harmony, also known as COC. Firstly, clauses 38 to 40 emphasize the importance of having an effective grievance procedure in the workplace. Employers are required to provide a clear, written and fair process for workers to raise complaints. In the Mediceram case, workers raised grievances regarding unpaid wages, passport retention and poor living condition. However, instead of resolving these grievances through proper procedure, the company ignored the complaints and punished the workers. Therefore, this clearly shows Mediceram failure to comply with the clauses 38 to 40 of COC. Next, Clause 41 and 42 focus on disciplinary procedure. Under these clauses, employee must follow fair and written disciplinary procedure. Worker must be informed of the allegation against them and be given the opportunity to defend themselves. Disciplinary action also must follow the principle of natural justice, including conducting a domestic inquiry. In the Mediceram case, workers were dismissed and deported without any domestic inquiry being conducted. They were not given any opportunity to defend or explain themselves, which clearly violate Clause 41 and 42 of the COC. Moving on, clauses 6 emphasize that employers must avoid taking unilateral or arbitrary action. Grievances should be resolved through proper and established procedure rather than through sudden or unfair decision. In this case, Mediceram acted unilaterally by terminating and deporting workers who raised complaints. The company bypassed the grievances process and acted arbitrarily, which directly contradicts Clause 6 by COC. Lastly, Clause 8 addresses unfair labour practice. Employer must not discriminate against or victimize workers, or any abuse of authority is strictly prohibited. In the Mediceram case, workers were victimized for raising legitimate complaints, and deportation was used as a tool of intimidation. This clearly constitute unfair labor practice and abuse of authority under Clause 8 of COC.
Another aspect that should be considered is the first one is regarding work visa expiry. Before this, they allowed visa to lapse and deportations occurred, and Mediceram should maintain a valid work visa, ensure a compliance with immigration laws and also country laws. The second last thing is hike fees charged to workers. This should be done. This thing like low wages and also low fees, because I think it is an employment which is their responsibilities. And then the last thing is poor living conditions. Workers live in crowded, cramped and spaces with little privacy. What they should be provide is adequate living space for workers following local housing standard. Now, the efforts that the employer should have done to avoid this problem, like the first thing is about wage theft, which is before this some workers were not fully paid or their work or paid late, And then the action that should be taken by pay all workers on time in full according to their employment, and pay wages not later than 7 days of following month. The second aspect is termination of after protest or complaint. Mediceram terminated workers protesting unpaid wages, which is not misconduct but legitimate grievance. The second thing that they have should be done is Mediceram should having a domestic inquiry, giving chance for the employer to defend themselves. The third aspect is immediate reporting after dismissal. What they have taken is, the first one is some workers were deported immediately after terminations, leaving them unable to appeal or seek remedies. And then the action should be done after this is Mediceram should provide legal support and time for workers to challenge dismissal, avoid actions that violated human rights or immigration laws. In the conclusions, I would like to explain about the industrial relations conflict involving Mediceram Syndrome Berhad. The first one is severe financial hardship due to unpaid or delayed wages and overtime, which is this breaches Employment Act 1995. The second thing is restricting movement through passport seizure and failing manage visa renewals. And the third thing is workers' welfare was neglected through the provisions of overcrowded, unhygienic and unsafe living conditions. This makes workers dissatisfactions and subsequent collective protests. The second conclusion is the company respond to this protest further violated the principle of natural justice and also code of conduct for industrial harmony. This also action taken by Mediceram is abruptly dismissing and deporting workers without issuing show cause letter or conducting domestic inquiry. Such action lacked just cause and excuse and violated the right to be heard, and a significant breakdown in industrial harmony, industrial relations, and a failure of supply chain oversight where weak monitoring allowed for debt bondage and unfair labor practices or persist.